So we have to see now for each drug what are the substrates, what are the inducers and what are the inhibitors. Substrate means these are the drugs which are getting metabolized by this. Substrate means these are the drugs which are getting metabolized by CYP3A4 or 5. Because what I said, CYP3A4 metabolizes how much? 50% of drugs. It metabolizes 50% of drugs. You cannot remember 50% of drugs. It will be hundreds of drugs. But you have to remember a few important things which have been asked, which can be asked, and which are important because there is drug-drug interaction. So to remember these substrates, if you have a mnemonic to it, it's fine, well and good, you use that. If you don't have a mnemonic, you can use whatever I am saying. To use that, I would suggest you close your eyes and imagine whatever I am saying. Now close your eyes and imagine this. You all know Dia Mirza. Dia Mirza is very beautiful. Why she is beautiful? Because in her ancestors there was a queen. That queen used 3 things as substrate for beauty. Those 3 things were lime, imagine these things, lime, carrot and regular cycling, bicycle use, regular cycling. Okay. So if you remember this short story, you will remember most of the substrates. Dia Mirza, ancestor, a queen was there. She used lime, carrot, cycle as substrates. So Dia, diazepam, midazolam, Mirza, mifepristone. Ancestor, I have grouped these 3 drugs into one single and have named them ancestor. Ancestor because they are not used, they are not in regular use, and they come together usually. And astemizole, cisapride, terfenadine. These drugs, wherever they come in this group only. Drugs causing QT prolongation, again astemizole, cisapride, terfenadine. CYP3A4 substrates, astemizole, cisapride, terfenadine. Okay. A queen, A for antiarrhythmics like amiodarone, quinidine, again antiarrhythmic, lime, lidocaine, mexiletine. So amiodarone, quinidine, lidocaine, mexiletine, these are the antiarrhythmics which are substrates of this CYP3A4/5. Calcium channel blockers, RUT, ritonavir, saquinavir, indinavir, other protease inhibitors. Cyclosporin, tacrolimus. Substrates, statins. So these are the substrates of CYP3A4/5 which you have to remember. Next, so these are getting metabolized by this CYP3A4 and 5. Now we have to know also its inducers as well as inhibitors. Inducer means they are increasing activity of this CYP3A4. Inhibitor means they are decreasing activity of this CYP3A4, thereby causing drug interactions as mentioned previously. Okay, again you can use your mnemonic or you can use this. Enzyme inducers I have remembered by this mnemonic. PCP negris, PCP you know, pneumocystis carni, pneumonia, and negri body you might have heard that also. So PCP negris are the enzyme inducers. PCP, these are the 3 antiepileptics, phenobarbital, carbamazepine, phenytoin. All these 3 act as inducers of this CYP3A4. Negri, nevirapine, griseofulvin, rifampicin. One more G is glucocorticoids, and I have kept S in bracket, negris. This S stands for environmental factors and it includes S for smoke, S for Brussels sprout, S for St. John's wort. By this St. John's wort, we also have hyperforin is active principle of this St. John's wort. This has also been asked. All of this has been asked, and this hyperforin has also been asked. And one more environmental factor is DDT. Okay. Now you should know enzyme inhibitors. For this again I have made a mnemonic. You know cement, you know concrete is prepared from cement. Now this cement's concrete inhibits enzyme very fast is the mnemonic. And ACC is a famous cement company. So ACC cements concrete, inhibits enzyme very fast. ACC, allopyrinol, amiodarone, ciprofloxacin, chloramphenicol. So ACC, cement, cimetidine, and because you have said cimetidine is a H2 blocker, you can remember proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole. Con, see this con. By con we have conazoles, itraconazole, ketoconazole and other conazole antifungals. Rit, ritonavir, saquinavir, indinavir, atazanavir, all navirs. But the most potent among them is this ritonavir. Inhibits INH, isoniazid, enzyme erythromycin, clarithromycin, telithromycin, but not azithromycin. Very verapamil and very valproate, fast fluoxetine and fluoxamine. And also imagine in this cement you pour some grapes, because grapefruit juice is a enzyme inhibitor. So these are the enzyme inducers and these are the enzyme inhibitors. And special things need special mention, like alcohol, it acts as both inducer as well as inhibitor. Inducer at chronic dosing and inhibitor in acute dosing. Now you can use this chart, use these enzyme inducer, these enzyme inhibitors for questions asked for this CYP3A4, or if the question is asked for CYP450, Cytochrome P450, or if the question is just Cytochrome P or any other Cytochrome P450 enzyme, or if the question is asked microsomal enzyme inducers or inhibitors, you can use this chart. What I mean to say is these are in general inducer and inhibitor. And also if you remember P glycoprotein in first class, while discussing carrier mediated transport, in carrier mediated transport we have active, passive and facilitated. In active transport we had ATP binding cassette proteins like P glycoprotein. This P glycoprotein, its function is to remove the drug from the cytoplasm. It will throw it outside the cell, or it will remove from cytoplasm and throw it into intracellular organelles. So it is mainly in absorption as well as excretion for drugs such as digoxin. In digoxin's absorption excretion, P glycoprotein plays a important role. So if you induce this P glycoprotein, if you increase the activity of P glycoprotein, what will happen? It will throw more and more digoxin out of cell into the excretory system, so thereby decreasing digoxin blood levels. Hence, if someone has P glycoprotein inducers, inhibitors, again you can use the same chart. So if phenobarbital you are using, what will happen? If you use phenobarbital, you will induce P glycoprotein, thereby causing digoxin's blood level to decrease. So this is what I mean to say. So you can use this chart for this as well as P glycoprotein inducer and inhibitor. So what we saw in CYP3A4, we saw three things: substrate, inducers, inhibitors. For all enzymes CYP3A4, CYP2D6, CYP2C8, 9, etc., we have to remember substrate, inducer and inhibitor. And inducer and inhibitor we can say common for all the CYP enzymes. Substrates we have to remember different for different enzymes. Now CYP3A4 substrates were diamazza's ancestor, equine, this mnemonic you have to use. For inducers what we used? PCP nigris. For inhibitors what we use? ACC cements, concrete, inhibits enzyme very fast, and you can take grapes as cement substitute, and ethanol a special thing which will induce as well as inhibit. So this was about CYP3A4 induction and inhibition. Now CYP2D6, what you have to do in this is you have to focus is on this 2D. This looks like 20, correct? So it metabolizes 20% of drugs. If you see 2D, you have to remember 2D eco. 2D eco you might have heard, and 2D MRI. Why I am saying this? Just for the sake of memory. By 2D you have to remember eco and MRI. Why? Because CVS and CNS drugs are its substrates. So CYP2D6 metabolizes 20% of drugs, and substrates are CVS, CNS drugs and codeine. Codeine is a important substrate of this CYP2D6. In CNS drugs, what you have to remember is two groups of drugs, the two groups of antipsychotic and antidepressant. In antipsychotics, these are antipsychotics. In antipsychotic, we have haloperidol, clozapine and risperidone. In antidepressants, we have tricyclic antidepressant, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors and serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. TCA example, amitriptyline, clomipramine. SSRI example, fluoxetine, paroxetine. SNRI, venlafaxine. So these are the CNS substrates. In CVS, what we have? Antiarrhythmics and beta blockers. In antiarrhythmics, we have propafenone, flecainide. These are class 1C, propafenone and flecainide. In previous slides, antiarrhythmics we discussed was amiodarone, lignocaine, mexiletine, quinidine. Quinidine is class 1A, lignocaine, mexiletine are class 1B, propafenone, flecainide are class 1C. Class 1C are substrates of CYP2D6. And in beta blockers, most beta blockers are metabolized by this. By most beta blockers, I mean carvedilol, metoprolol, timolol and other beta blockers. For inhibitors, you can use the previous, the same ACC Cements enzyme inhibits, ACC Cements concrete inhibits enzyme very fast. But you have to remember one important inhibitor, and that inhibitor is quinidine. So you have to remember this quinidine. Apart from quinidine, the substrates tricyclic antidepressant, these as well as these SSRIs are also its inhibitors. So its substrate and inhibitor are very easy to remember. No need for any mnemonic. Okay. Next, for these small things, we will have a small group of drugs which we have to know. CYP2C 8 or 9. What I want you to do is focus on these names, CYP2C 8 or 9. If you see mirror image of this 9, it looks like P. P for phenytoin. And if you rotate this 8, if you rotate this 8, you can see W here. Correct? By this W, what I mean to say is warfarin. So you got two substrates by seeing at name. One is 9, ulta P, P for phenytoin, 8, rotate, W, warfarin. If you want to remember more, you can remember this GLO, which is glipizide and losartan. So these are the substrates of CYP2C8 or 9, CYP2C9. Inducer inhibitor, again you can use same. Now coming to this CYP2C9, again see the name 19. Again I will write it here, CYP2C19. The reverse I will do again reverse. 9 looks like P, P for phenytoin. Take one more P for propranolol. In CYP2D6, I said all beta blockers are metabolized by, most beta blockers are metabolized by CYP2D6. Propranolol is metabolized by CYP2C19. Now, P, you wrote one more P. If you see this one, this will look like I. So, combine this PPI, that is omeprazole. This is also substrate. Again, C on this name. This looks like Cl, C for Cl, clopidogrel. So, not very difficult to remember these substrates. So, these are its substrates. One important inhibitor you have to remember, example I already discussed in enzyme inhibition, clopidogrel's metabolism is inhibited by omeprazole. So this is a inhibitor you have to remember. So these are the substrates and omeprazole is the inhibitor. Next, we will finish with these two, CYP2E1 and CYP1A1. CYP2E1 you have to remember only one substrate, and that one substrate already discussed, that is PCM, getting metabolized by CYP2E1. CYP2E1 to toxic metabolite N-acetyl para-benzoquinonamine NAPQI. This CYP2E1 can be induced by, this also I have said, this is induced by chronic alcoholism. Because you have used alcoholism as inducer, inhibitor is also very easy to remember. Disulfiram is its inhibitor. Disulfiram is its inhibitor. So you can, if you want, you can remember two more substrates of this. PCM I said already. One more, alcohol is also substrate. Alcohol is also inducer. One more example is halothane. So these are the substrates. In inducer you have alcoholism, and in inhibitor you have disulfiram as inhibitor. So CYP2E1, we finished CYP2E1. Now last one is CYP1A1. This is special CYP because it is a dangerous CYP, dangerous cytochrome P. Why dangerous? Because it converts pro-carcinogens into carcinogens. It activates pro-carcinogens. Pro-carcinogen is activated by CYP1A1. So obviously the inducer will be, what will be its inducer? Inducers will be carcinogenic substances which will stimulate this. For example, smoke, char-boiled meat, or polycyclic hydrocarbons, etc. Other carcinogens you can say. So these are the inducers of this CYP1A1. If you want to remember few more substrates, like which drugs are substrates, you can remember two examples, that is theophylline and caffeine. So these are the substrates of CYP1A1 and these are the inducers of CYP1A1. So finally we have finished with all the enzymes, inducers and inhibitors, and we have finished major part of metabolism. If you remember these substrate, inducer, inhibitor of all these CYP enzymes, you are definitely going to get 1 mark in any given exam, be it either AIMS, PGI, JIPMER or this NEET or NIMHANS. So definitely 1 mark is sure from this table. So what I suggest is make a table, make a chart of this on a paper and paste it either in front of your study table, or if you have a book for last day revision, you write this down in your book of last day revision. You have to revise this before going to any exam. So the summary of whatever we have discussed: CYP3A 4, 5 substrates. What was the mnemonic? Dia Mirza's ancestor a queen was there. She used 3 things: lime, carrot and cycling as substrates. So the substrates of CYP3A4 are diazepam, mifepristone, estimizole, cisapride, terfenadine, antiarrhythmics like amiodarone, quinidine, lignocaine, maxillitin, CAC, calcium channel blockers, ritonavir, saquinavir, indinavir, other protease inhibitors, cyclosporin, tacrolimus, substrates, statins. So these are the substrates of CYP3A4. Next, inducers, we saw PCP negris, PCP, 3 antiepileptics, phenobarbital, carbamazepine, phenytoin, nevirapine, griseofulvin, rifampicin, one more G is glucocorticoid, in bracket S because environmental factors, these are smoking, Brussels sprout and St. John's wort. By St. John's wort we have hyperforin, and one more inducer is DDT. These are the environmental and other inducers. In inhibitors we had mnemonic ACC Siemens enzyme inhibits enzyme very fast. A. Allopurinol, amiodarone, ciprofloxacin, chloramphenicol, cimetidine, conazole, itraconazole, ketoconazole, ritonavir, indonavir, saquinavir, other protease inhibitors, INH, isoniazid, enzyme erythromycin, clarithromycin, telithromycin, verapamil, valproate, fluoxetine, fluoxamine, and grapes is the environmental factors. So you can use these same inducers for all these. Same inducers you can this for CYP2D6, CYP2D, 2C8, 9 and this, and same inhibitors you can use for all this. But there are a specific few which you need to remember. I will say them. You can use the same inducer and inhibitor for all, like it is common. Now coming to CYP2D6, what I said, you have to remember 2D by 2D 20% by 2D eco and MRS. So substrates are CVS and CNS, drugs and codeine. In CVS we had antiarrhythmics and beta blocker. Antiarrhythmic propafenone, flecainide, and beta blocker, most beta blocker. In CNS we had antipsychotic and tricyclic antidepressants and other antidepressants like SSRI and SNRI. In antipsychotics we have haloperidol, clonazepam, risperidone, tricyclic antidepressant, amitriptyline, clomipramine, SSRI, paroxetine, fluoxetine, SNRI, venlafaxine. Okay, and codeine was one more substrate. And inhibitor, what I said, you have to remember one inhibitor, that is quinidine, and other inhibitors which you have to remember is TCA as well as SSRIs. They inhibit this CYP2D6. Now coming to CYP2C8, 9. In CYP2C8, 9, what I said, 9 ulta reverse of 9 is P for phenytoin. 1, now 8, you rotate it, 8 looks like W for warfarin. If you want to remember more, you can remember GLO, that is glipizide, and losartan. Now inducer inhibitor, no need. 2C19, again the same formula, 9 P phenytoin, P for propranolol, and 1 looks like PPI, omeprazole, and C1 looks like clopidogrel. So these are the 4 substrates of this, and the inhibitor one you have to remember is omeprazole, that is PPI. In CYP1A1, 1A2, what I said, you have to remember one thing, that it is pro-carcinogens, and so because it is pro-carcinogen, inducer will be carcinogenic substances like smoke, this polycyclic hydrocarbons, char-broiled meat, etc. And you can remember few more substrates, drug substrates of this 1A1, and it is theophylline and caffeine. Okay, now 2E1. In 2E1, one thing which you have to remember was paracetamol. It was getting metabolized by T1 to NAPQI, and the inducer was chronic alcoholism, and inhibitor was disulfiram. And you can remember 2 more substrates of this 2E1, and that are alcohol and halothane. Okay.